welcome to Fish on Fridays. I'm Al McCauley, and today I want to talk to you about a pope who is a great saint. In fact, he's so great that his moniker is the Great. He's only one of two popes in history to have that moniker. And I've done an episode on the other one, Gregory the Great. We've done an episode on him on Fish on Fridays. You can look that up in the archives. Today I want to talk to you about Pope St. Leo the Great. The only other pope has that nickname, the Great. We remember him every year, of course, on November 10th. That's his feast day. And he was a real powerhouse of a guy. And he was a first in a lot of ways. He was the first pope named Leo. He was the first pope nicknamed the Great. He was the first pope to ever be buried at St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. And just an incredible guy beyond all those firsts. He's somebody who fought really diligently against church heresies. He wanted to maintain church unity in a time when it was very difficult to do so. Now, we're talking about a guy who lives in the middle of the 5th century. And so there's a whole lot of intrigue going on. There's a whole lot of, as you can imagine, church chaos, because you've got the collapsing of the Roman Empire that's kind of ongoing at this point. You've got all kinds of tribes from the north, we call collectively barbarians, from the north of Europe, north and east of Europe, coming west and south into Europe, and they're just ravaging everybody. A guy in particular we'll talk about a little bit later named Attila the Hun. He's probably the best known of these guys. But Pope Leo the Great is going to add all kinds of prestige to the papacy that it hadn't had before. The papacy was always considered the Bishop of Rome, but it's Leo who's going to really put it on the map as this office of authority, of great power, and I mean that power in a spiritual way, not in a military way. But he's going to be so incredibly influential in terms of his writing and all of the impact he has in the church that he's going to be recognized as a doctor of the church, and there have only been 37 of them. Interestingly, Pope Gregory the Great is also a doctor of the church. And again, I mentioned that in that episode. You can, again, check that out in our archives. But let's talk about why he's so important a little bit. Leo is the guy who's really going to make the connection. It's his papacy that connects the office of the Pope back to St. Peter, who tradition tells us is our first Pope. You may remember in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 16, Jesus says to the apostles, "Who am I? Who do you say I am?" And when Peter confesses that you are the Christ, you are the Messiah, Jesus says, "I'm going to give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. What you bind on earth will be bound in heaven." I'm assuming you know this passage pretty well. It's very familiar to Catholics and to Christians. It's Leo, 4 centuries after Peter's life, who's going to say, you know what? That authority that Jesus gave to Peter, those keys get passed down to the second pope, whose name was Linus, to the next pope, all the way down to Leo. And in fact, even into our own time for Pope Francis, that authority has been passed on. Pope Francis is our 266th pope. So that authority has been passed down, and it's Leo that's really going to make that point. In fact, during his lifetime, somebody said about Leo that Peter has spoken through the mouth of Leo, as if to say the authority of Peter is now Leo's, and it will be every subsequent pope after that. Because of this authority, if you will, and this need for somebody to really step up in the Western world as a power broker of sorts, he's going to adopt a title that hadn't been used since the Roman the emperors. And that term is, in Latin, it's Pontifex Maximus, which means highest bridge builder. The Roman emperors were always seen as the bridge between the people and the Roman gods. And so now Leo is going to say, I am Pontifex Maximus. I am the highest bridge maker between the faithful, you and I, and God. And so the Pope is that lynch, if you will, a linchpin, that connection between us. And if you think about the term Pontifex Maximus, what's a synonym that we use today regularly for the Pope? We'll say the pontiff. It's short for Pontifex Maximus, which he is the bridge maker. Pontiff means bridge. He's the bridge. But in his time, again, very theologically important for a lot of reasons. He's going to be at the Council of Chalcedon, which is going to really emphasize the power of the Holy Spirit, the nature of the Holy Spirit. But beyond that, politically, it's Leo who very famously is going to stop the aforementioned Attila the Hun from attacking Rome. Attila the Hun had come from the north and east all the way into Europe, and he'd been into Italy, going across the Alps down into Italy, threatening to attack Rome. And the story is that Leo met with Attila, just with translators, and was able to turn him back. So instead of attacking Rome, he turned around and left. Now, Leo did this without any army, without any weapons. So you can imagine how papal prestige is going to fly through the roof at this point. There's a very famous painting of this drama, this dramatic scene by Raphael, and it shows Leo. If you look at it, Leo is on a horse all the way to the left, and of course he's riding a white horse as you look at the painting, and he's got his papal tiara, and he's looking all official and regal. And right in the middle of the painting is Attila, who's looking up at the sky. You see behind him the destruction that he's bringing to Europe, the fire, the clouds, the chaos that he's bringing. But he's on horseback, and he's looking up at the sky, and he's pointing his hands like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening, and we better back up. And he's looking at a vision that he had of Peter and Paul, who are basically threatening, if you attack Rome, you're gonna have a real problem with us, us saints. And so whether or not that happened, we don't know if that specific vision happened. That's one of the legends that comes down to us. But nonetheless, it's going to increase not just Leo's authority and his prestige, but the office of the papacy for subsequent popes. So I think you can see how important Leo is to church history and certainly to the development of the papacy. And again, one of the reasons he's called the Great. So there you go, Pope Leo. If you know somebody named Leo, or perhaps they are a Leo because they were born in the summer, I'm kidding. But you could send this information to them, share this content if you'd like. That would be great. We would love it if you'd subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us on Facebook. But either way, please keep tuning in every Friday for Fish on Fridays. We love it when you do that. Until next time, please be good to each other, and God bless.